Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to rotate in Fortnite. You may be coming from my other video, but if you haven't already, go watch that one. It's basically based on a lot of the things that we're going to be learning in this video. But let's just get right into the video. So the first thing we're going to be learning is zone priority. There are three main types of zone priorities in Fortnite. The first one is like low priority, otherwise known as dead side. This is really easy rotates, and if you don't need loot or storm surge tags, you should be sitting here and just kind of get into the next zone. The next one is medium priority. This is a good place to be as there's some easy rotates sometimes, so you really gotta be planning your rotates, and there's also good storm surge tags. And the last one is high priority. If you're here, you're absolutely cooked. This is where everyone is and everyone's fighting, and if you have no loot, you're probably here. Alright, so to sum it up, low priority, there's gonna be like no one there, maybe one or two people across the entire area. Medium priority is basically just a bunch of bases or people trying to get storm surge tags, and then high priority is where most of the lobby is gonna be, and they're all fighting and they're all in scrambles. So there are three main steps onto rotating. The first one is where you are right now, like what zone priority you're in, or maybe where you are in circle, like if you're near storm. The second one is where you want to get to, so for example, like in circle, where you want to get to medium priority to get some more frags. And the third thing is how you're going to get there. So for example, running through every single build in the middle circle may be the fastest way, but it's also probably the way you're going to get beamed the most. So here's a really good example from the last FSDS and uses all the points that we just touched on. So he wants to get into deep into circle. So first he goes under the mountain and under these builds to make sure he doesn't get beamed. And then he uses one of the invisibility bird things. I don't know what these are called, but he uses it so that way he can't get beamed, and then he quickly boxes up in circle. Alright, so let's quickly analyze what he did there to make sure that he wouldn't get beamed. So the first thing that he does is he knows he's on the low priority side of the circle, so he knows he could run behind the mountain so that way he doesn't get beamed from medium and high priority. Then he goes under builds and through builds to make sure that he's not getting beamed from anyone else while he's in the medium priority area. Now, in order to get deep into the circle, he's going to be using this invisibility bird thing so that way he can get deep in the circle without being shot. It's important to use your mobility, like if you have dashes or something, you can also dash here, but it's important to be using your mobility to get into circle too. Alright, so let's talk about how to plan your rotates. So the first you're going to do is you're going to see where high, low, and medium priority are. So depending where you are, it's depending where you're going to rotate. So first of all, if you're in high priority, it's going to be a lot harder to rotate. You probably have to use a lot more materials, maybe tarp or block behind you to get into circle so that way you don't get beamed. But maybe if you're in low priority, you can just run around as there's literally no one near you. Alright, so the first thing you're going to see is if anyone's near you, maybe if you have any natural cover too. So looking around for natural cover or maybe leftover build is really important, as if you can see where the other people are, you know where you want to be to not get beamed. So for example, in that clip, he saw that the mountain was there, so that way he didn't have to use any builds, just to rotate around the mountain and no one would be there. That's also a really good example, but you could also be looking for maybe like bushes or rocks that you can hide behind instead of using extra builds. Alright, so we talked about where we're going to be rotating and what we're looking for rotating, but let's talk about what we're going to be rotating throughout the game. Alright, so early game and mid game are pretty similar. Basically, you want to stay on dead side of the circle. Dead side is basically normally in the far side of the circle where the water is. This is because everyone's coming in because Storm is pushing them in, and there's no one really on the other side of the circle. We're going to be staying here because there's like no one here, and you don't really have to take fights and lose mats and lose materials or get third party. Alright, so once we made it to endgame, we're going to be staying again on like the medium or low priority side of the circle. Now, if you're wondering why we're staying on the medium or low priority side, it's because we don't want to be wasting mats and wasting like a lot of time fighting people and dying. For example, if you're in a tournament and it's like mid game, you've already put 20 minutes into a match, you get keyed in mid game, you die, you just wasted 20 minutes because you get no placement points and you get no elim points. So we want to stay away from everyone to ensure that we're getting lots of placement points. And we also want to be in, if you're in medium priority especially, we're going to be beaming people who try to rotate from high priority. This is really easy to do, and it gives you lots of like free kills and free placement points as you're literally just beating people, wasting their heals and killing them. Alright, so in conclusion, we're going to be looking for old builds or maybe some natural cover to hide behind instead of having to run through wasting a lot of mats. Making sure during like basically every part of the zone that we're staying on dead side or medium priority instead of staying on high priority areas where we're going to get beamed, and we don't really want that. So if you guys like this video, leave a like and subscribe. It's taken a lot of time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.